My name is Simon Carter, and I've been fixing broken things for 23 years. Air conditioners, heating units, ventilation systems, you name it, I can repair it. What I couldn't fix, apparently, was my marriage. The first crack showed up on a Tuesday morning in March. I was under the kitchen sink, wrestling with a stubborn pipe joint, when I heard Amelia talking to someone on the phone upstairs. Her voice had that particular lilt she used when she was being secretive, higher-pitched, almost giggly. "You're terrible," she whispered into the receiver. "What if Simon hears you?" I froze, wrench halfway through a turn. In 17 years of marriage, Amelia had never whispered my name like that, like it was something dangerous, something to hide from. No, he's downstairs making noise with his tools. He never pays attention anyway. That stung more than it should have. Sure, I spent long hours at work, came home tired and grimy, but I thought we had something solid. Apparently, I was the only one who believed that. When she came downstairs 20 minutes later, perfectly composed in her crisp white blouse and tailored pants, I was still under the sink, pretending to work. "I'm heading to the office early today," she announced, checking her reflection in the toaster. "Greg wants to review the Morrison project before the client meeting." Greg Linton, her boss at the architectural firm. 44 years old, divorced last year, drove a silver Porsche that he parked like he owned the world. I'd met him twice at company parties, the kind of guy who wore expensive cologne and talked about his gym routine within 5 minutes of meeting you. "Sure thing," I said from under the sink. "Tell Greg I said hi." She paused at the kitchen door. "Why would you say that?" "Just being friendly." "Right. Well, don't wait up. We might be working late." After she left, I sat at the kitchen table with my coffee, staring at the spot where she'd stood. Something felt off, like when you walk into a house and know immediately that the heating system is failing, even before you hear the telltale sounds. My son Jamie wandered downstairs, backpack slung over one shoulder, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. At 13, he'd developed that particular teenage talent for communicating entire conversations through facial expressions. "Mom already left?" he asked, grabbing a granola bar from the counter. "Yeah, early meeting." He made a sound that might have been agreement or skepticism. Hard to tell with Jamie these days. "Everything okay at school?" I asked. "Define okay." "No trouble with teachers, friends, that sort of thing?" Jamie shrugged. "Friends are overrated. Teachers are just doing their job. Mom's never here anymore, and you're always covered in grease or dust or whatever. But sure, everything's peachy." Before I could respond, he was out the door, leaving me with the uncomfortable feeling that my 13-year-old son saw things more clearly than I did. The next few weeks passed in a blur of routine maintenance calls and growing unease. Amelia worked later and later, came home with stories about difficult clients and demanding deadlines. She started going out with her girlfriends, Trish and Marlene from the firm, on Friday nights, sometimes not returning until well past midnight. Before we deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. "We just needed to blow off steam," she'd explain, slipping into bed beside me with the careful movements of someone trying not to wake a light sleeper. "You know how stressful work has been." I did know. What I didn't know was why she'd started showering immediately when she got home, why her phone was suddenly password protected, or why she'd begun buying new underwear, the expensive kind that definitely wasn't for my benefit. The breaking point came on a Saturday morning in April. I was in the garage, organizing my tools, when I heard voices from the backyard. Amelia was having coffee with Trish, their conversation drifting through the open window. "I still can't believe you're actually doing this," Trish was saying. "Aren't you worried about Simon finding out?" "Simon?" Amelia laughed, and there was something cruel in the sound. "Simon wouldn't notice if I brought Greg home and introduced him as my boyfriend. He's completely oblivious. But still, sleeping with your boss..." Greg's not just my boss anymore. He's... God, Trish, you should see what he can do. Makes me remember what I've been missing all these years. My hands stilled on the wrench I'd been holding. The garage suddenly felt too small, too warm. What about Jamie? Jamie's 13. He's got his own problems. Besides, kids are resilient. They adapt. And if Simon finds out? Then I'll deal with it. Honestly, it might be a relief. I'm tired of pretending to be happy with someone who thinks romance is fixing the garbage disposal without being asked. Trish giggled. You're terrible. I'm honest. There's a difference. I stood there for another 10 minutes, listening to them discuss my marriage like it was a mildly interesting television show. They talked about Greg's apartment downtown, about weekend trips to Chicago, about how liberating it felt for Amelia to finally do something for herself. When they moved inside, I remained in the garage, staring at my tools. 23 years of fixing things, and I couldn't even see that my own life was falling apart. That evening, after Jamie went to his room and Amelia settled in front of the television with a glass of wine, I decided to try something I hadn't done in months. I sat beside her on the couch. Good day? I asked. Fine. She didn't look away from the screen. Yours? Got the Henderson's air conditioning working again, 3rd time this month. I keep telling them they need a new unit, but they don't want to spend the money. Mm-hmm. We sat in silence for several minutes. On the television, some home renovation show played out the fantasy of couples working together to transform their living space. The irony wasn't lost on me. Amelia, I said finally. Are we okay? She turned to look at me then, her expression carefully neutral. What do you mean? I mean us. Our marriage. Lately it feels like we're just coexisting. We're fine, Simon. You're overthinking things. Am I? Because it seems like you're never here anymore, and when you are, you're somewhere else entirely. Her jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. I have a demanding job. I'm sorry if that inconveniences you. It's not about inconvenience. It's about us, feeling like strangers. Maybe that's because we don't have anything in common anymore. The words hung in the air between us like a challenge. I wanted to argue, to point out all the things we'd shared over 17 years, but suddenly I couldn't think of any. I see, I said. Do you? Because sometimes I wonder if you see anything at all. She got up, took her wine glass to the kitchen, and went upstairs without another word. I sat on the couch until well past midnight, listening to the house settle around me and wondering when exactly I'd become a stranger in my own life. The next morning, I found Amelia's phone on the kitchen counter while she was in the shower. She'd never left it unattended before, always kept it close, always protective of her privacy. But there it was, screen dark, password protected, holding secrets I was suddenly desperate to uncover. I picked it up, thumb hovering over the screen. In 23 years of marriage, I'd never violated her privacy. Never read her emails, never checked her messages, never doubted her word about anything important. The shower was still running upstairs. Jamie was at a friend's house. It was just me and the phone, and the growing certainty that my world was about to change forever. I set it back on the counter and walked away. But the damage was already done. The seed of suspicion, once planted, grew quickly in the fertile ground of all those late nights and whispered phone calls and casual cruelties disguised as honest conversation. By the time Amelia came downstairs, hair still damp from her shower, I was sitting at the kitchen table with my coffee, watching her every movement like I was seeing her for the first time. What? She asked, noticing my stare. Nothing, I said. Just thinking. About what? About how much things can change without you realizing it. She studied my face for a moment, then shrugged and grabbed her purse. I'm meeting Marlene for lunch. Don't wait up if I'm late. After she left, I sat alone in the kitchen, surrounded by the accumulated debris of 17 years together. Family photos on the refrigerator, Jamie's artwork from elementary school still taped to the cabinet, the coffee mug she'd given me for Father's Day with "World's Greatest Dad" printed in fading letters. Everything looked the same, but something fundamental had shifted. The house felt different, like walking into a building where the foundation has cracked but the walls haven't fallen yet. I spent the rest of the day doing maintenance work around the house, fixing the things that could be fixed, while the thing that mattered most continued to break apart in ways I was only beginning to understand. The evidence I'd been dreading arrived 3 weeks later in the form of a forgotten phone charger. Amelia had rushed out that morning for another early meeting, leaving her phone plugged in beside the bed. When it buzzed with an incoming message, I glanced over automatically and saw a name that made my stomach drop. "Greg L. Last night was incredible. Can't stop thinking about you." The phone buzzed again. "Greg L. When can I see you again? This afternoon?" And again. "Greg L. Simon doesn't deserve you. You know that, right?" I stared at the screen, watching my marriage dissolve in real time. The messages kept coming, each one more explicit than the last, painting a picture of an affair that had been going on for months. My hands shook as I picked up the phone. The messages were right there on the lock screen. No password needed to see them. Greg wasn't just sleeping with my wife, he was mocking me while he did it. "Greg L. Tell me you're wearing that black thing I bought you." "Greg L. Your husband's an idiot if he doesn't appreciate what he has." "Greg L. Can't wait to have you all to myself this weekend." Weekend? What weekend? Amelia had mentioned visiting her sister in Milwaukee, another lie in a growing collection. I set the phone down carefully, like it might explode, and walked to the kitchen. Coffee. I needed coffee and time to think. But thinking just made it worse. How long had this been going on? How many lies had I swallowed? How many times had she come home from Greg's bed and slipped into mine? The phone buzzed again from the bedroom. Then again. Greg was persistent. I'd give him that. When Amelia came home that evening, I was waiting in the living room with a beer and what I hoped was a calm expression. "Hey," she said, dropping her purse by the door. "How was your day?" "Interesting," I said. "Yours?" "The usual. Meetings, deadlines. The Morrison project is turning into a nightmare." She moved toward the stairs. "I'm going to shower, and then we need to talk about this weekend." "What about this weekend?" "I told you. I'm visiting Linda in Milwaukee. She's having a rough time with the divorce." Linda, her sister, who lived in Milwaukee and was indeed getting divorced. The perfect cover story. Just enough truth to make the lie believable. "Right," I said. "Linda." Something in my tone made her pause. "Is everything okay?" This was the moment. I could confront her, lay out the evidence, demand the truth. Or I could wait, gather more information, figure out exactly what I was dealing with before making my move. "Everything's fine," I said. "Go take your shower." She studied my face for another moment, then nodded and went upstairs. A few minutes later, I heard her exclaim from the bedroom, "Simon, have you seen my phone?" "Kitchen counter," I called back. "You left it plugged in down here." She appeared at the top of the stairs, phone in hand, scrolling through what I assumed were Greg's increasingly impatient messages. "Thanks," she said, but her voice was tight with worry. That night, she was different, nervous. She kept checking her phone, typing quick responses, then setting it face down on the nightstand. When she thought I was asleep, I heard her whispering into the receiver. "No. I don't think he saw anything. I know I was careless. Tomorrow night, after he goes to bed." I lay still, controlling my breathing, while my wife planned her next betrayal 3 feet away from me. The following day, I called in sick to work for the first time in 2 years. After Amelia left for the office and Jamie caught the school bus, I drove to Malik's house. Malik Washington had been my best friend since high school and my business partner for the past 5 years. Ex-cop turned private security consultant. He had the kind of practical cynicism that comes from seeing too much of humanity's worst impulses. "You look like hell," he said, opening his front door. "What's wrong?" I told him everything. The phone calls, the late nights, the messages from Greg, the weekend trip that wasn't really a weekend trip. Malik listened without interruption, his expression growing darker with each detail. "How long you think this has been going on?" he asked when I finished. "Months. Maybe longer. And you want to what? Confront her?" "I want to know the truth. All of it." Malik was quiet for a long moment, studying my face. "Truth can be expensive, Simon. You sure you're ready to pay the price?" "What's that supposed to mean?" "Means once you go down this road, there's no going back. You can't unknow what you're about to learn. And if you're planning to do something about it, you better be prepared for the consequences." "What kind of consequences?" "The kind that change everything." We spent the next 2 hours planning. Malik had contacts, resources, ways of gathering information that didn't involve breaking any laws, but didn't exactly follow the rules either. By the time I left his house, we had a strategy. Step 1, confirmation. We needed proof beyond a few text messages. Step 2, documentation. Everything recorded, everything saved, everything admissible. Step 3, leverage. Information is only powerful if you know how to use it. "And step 4? I asked. Malik smiled, but there was no humor in it. "Step 4 is up to you." That evening, Amelia announced she was going out with the girls. "Just Trish and Marlene," she said, applying lipstick in the hallway mirror. "We'll probably go to that new wine bar downtown." She was wearing the black dress, the one Greg had mentioned in his messages. "Have fun," I said. "Don't wait up." After she left, I called Malik. "She's out. Give me 20 minutes. He arrived with a small bag of equipment that looked like it belonged in a spy movie. Tiny cameras, audio recording devices, GPS trackers no bigger than a quarter. "This feels wrong," I said, watching him examine Amelia's car. "Wronger than what she's doing to you?" He had a point. We placed a GPS tracker under her car and a small audio recorder in her purse, the expensive leather one she'd bought last month and claimed was a gift from her sister. The cameras went in strategic locations around the house, hidden, but comprehensive. "If she's bringing him here," Malik said, "we'll know about it." "You think she would? In our house?" "Brother, if she's been lying to you for months, there's no telling what she's capable of." He was right, but it still felt surreal. This was Amelia we were talking about, the woman who cried during commercials about shelter animals, the mother of my son, the person I'd shared a bed with for 17 years. But as the night wore on and she didn't come home, I began to understand that the woman I'd married might not exist anymore. Maybe she never had. At 2:47 a.m., I heard her car in the driveway. I pretended to be asleep as she slipped into the bedroom, moving with the careful precision of someone who'd had practice sneaking around. She smelled different. Cologne that wasn't mine, wine that wasn't from any bottle in our house, and something else, something that made my stomach turn. The next morning, while she showered, I checked the GPS tracker on Malik's phone. The little dot had spent most of the evening at an address downtown. Not a wine bar, an apartment building, Greg's apartment building. "Got her," Malik said when I called him. "Now we wait and see what else she gives us." We didn't have to wait long. That afternoon, while I was supposedly at work, I parked across the street from our house and watched. At 3:15, Amelia's car pulled into the driveway. At 3:22, a silver Porsche parked 2 blocks away. Greg Linton walked up to my front door like he owned the place. I sat in my truck, hands gripping the steering wheel, watching my wife's lover enter my home. The home where my son lived. The home I'd been paying for while she used it as her personal hotel. Every instinct screamed at me to march up there and confront them, to kick down the door and demand answers. But Malik's voice echoed in my head. Information is only powerful if you know how to use it. So I waited. And I watched. and I let the tiny cameras record everything while my world finished falling apart. An hour later, Greg emerged, straightening his tie and looking pleased with himself. He walked back to his Porsche with the swagger of a man who'd just taken something that didn't belong to him. When I got home that evening, Amelia was in the kitchen, preparing dinner like nothing had happened. "How was work?" she asked without looking up. "Productive," I said. "Yours?" "Oh, same old thing." I watched her move around the kitchen, this woman who'd shared my life for 17 years, and realized I was looking at a complete stranger. Someone capable of lies so elaborate, betrayals so calculated, that I wondered if I'd ever known her at all. "Amelia," I said. "Do you love me?" She froze, knife halfway through an onion. For a moment her mask slipped, and I saw something that might have been guilt, or maybe just annoyance at being asked a difficult question. "Of course I love you," she said finally. "What kind of question is that?" "The kind that deserves an honest answer." She turned to face me, her expression carefully composed. "I don't know what's gotten into you lately, Simon, but I don't appreciate the interrogation. I'm not interrogating you. I'm asking my wife if she loves me." "And I answered you." "No. You gave me the answer you thought I wanted to hear. There's a difference." We stared at each other across the kitchen, 17 years of marriage balanced on the edge of a knife. She could tell me the truth. She could end this charade, admit what she'd been doing, and we could deal with it like adults. Instead, she turned back to the onion. "Dinner will be ready in 20 minutes, she said. That night, I lay awake listening to her breathe beside me, planning my next move. The cameras had recorded everything. The audio devices had captured conversations that would make a divorce lawyer's eyes light up. The GPS tracker had documented a pattern of deception that stretched back months. I had evidence. I had leverage. What I didn't have was a plan for what came next, but I was starting to get some ideas. The video was worse than I'd imagined. Malik and I sat in his basement office, watching my marriage disintegrate in high definition. The hidden cameras had captured everything. Amelia and Greg in my living room, on my couch, saying things about me that made my teeth clench. "He's completely clueless," Greg was saying, his arm around my wife. "I could probably park my car in his driveway and he still wouldn't figure it out." Amelia laughed. "Don't give him that much credit. Simon sees what he wants to see, always has." "How long do you think we can keep this up?" "As long as we want. He's not going anywhere. Too comfortable, too set in his routine. Besides, where would he go?" "What about the kid?" "Jamie's 13, he'll adjust. Kids are tougher than people think." I stopped the video. "Turn it off." "Simon, turn it off." Malik paused the playback. On the screen, Amelia was frozen mid-laugh, looking happier than I'd seen her in years. "There's more," Malik said quietly. Audio from her purse, conversations in the car. "You want to hear what she really thinks about you?" "No." I stood up, paced to the window. "I've heard enough." "What do you want to do?" That was the question, wasn't it? What did I want to do? 17 years ago, I'd promised to love and honor this woman for better or worse. I'd kept that promise even when worse turned out to be worse than I'd ever imagined. But she'd made the same promise. And she'd broken it so thoroughly that I wasn't sure it had ever meant anything to her at all. "I want them to pay," I said finally. "Pay how?" I turned back to face him. "I want them to lose everything that matters to them. Their reputations, their jobs, their comfortable little fantasy world where they get to mock me behind my back." Malik nodded slowly. "That's not going to be easy. Or clean. I don't care about clean anymore." "What about Jamie?" That stopped me. Jamie, who was already struggling with the tension in the house, who'd started spending more time in his room, who looked at both his parents like we were strangers he was forced to live with. "Jamie deserves to know the truth," I said. "Not the details, but the truth about what kind of person his mother really is." "And if he chooses her?" Then I'll deal with that when it happens. Over the next week, Malik and I developed a strategy. It wasn't enough to expose the affair. Anyone could have an affair. We needed to destroy their credibility, their professional standing, their ability to control the narrative. Greg was the easier target. As a senior partner at the architectural firm, he had a reputation to protect and professional ethics standards to maintain. Sleeping with a subordinate was a fireable offense, especially when it involved using company resources for personal gain, because that's what we discovered when Malik dug deeper into their activities. The weekend trips weren't just affairs. They were business trips that Greg was billing to clients while using them for personal entertainment. The expensive gifts he'd been buying Amelia, charged to the company credit card as client development expenses. He's been embezzling, Malik said, showing me the financial records he'd somehow obtained. Not huge amounts, but consistent. Probably figured no one would notice a few thousand here and there. How did you get these? Better you don't ask. Amelia was more complicated. She wasn't stealing money, but she was using her position to facilitate Greg's schemes. Fake invoices, altered expense reports, meetings that never happened but got billed to clients anyway. She's complicit, Malik said. Maybe not the mastermind, but definitely involved. Enough to get her fired? Enough to get them both fired, and possibly prosecuted. The plan was simple in concept, complex in execution. We would gather evidence of their professional misconduct, document their affair, and then release everything simultaneously to their employer, their colleagues, and their social circle. But first, I wanted to give Amelia one last chance to tell me the truth. I chose a Saturday morning when Jamie was at a friend's house and we had the kitchen to ourselves. Amelia was reading the newspaper, coffee cup in hand, looking domestic and innocent. "We need to talk," I said, sitting across from her. She didn't look up from the paper. "About what?" "About us. About what's really going on." "I don't know what you mean." "Amelia, look at me." She sighed and lowered the newspaper. "What, Simon?" "I know." For just a moment, her composure cracked. I saw fear flicker across her face before the mask slipped back into place. "Know what?" "I know about Greg." She was good. I had to give her that. Her expression didn't change. Her voice remained steady. "What about Greg?" "I know you're having an affair with him." "That's ridiculous." "I know about the apartment downtown. I know about the weekend trips. I know about the money." Now she was paying attention. "What money?" "The money you've been helping him steal from the company." She set down her coffee cup carefully. "Simon, I think you need to see someone. This paranoia isn't healthy." "Show me your phone." "What?" "Your phone. Show me your messages with Greg." "I'm not showing you anything. You don't have the right to invade my privacy." "I'm your husband. You're acting like a crazy person." She stood up, but I moved to block her path to the door. "Sit down, Amelia. Get out of my way. Not until we finish this conversation. There's nothing to finish. You're having some kind of breakdown, and I'm not going to enable it." I pulled out my phone and showed her a screenshot of Greg's messages. Her face went white. "Where did you get that?" "Does it matter?" "You went through my phone. You left it where I could see the messages." She sank back into her chair, the fight going out of her. For a moment, she looked like the woman I'd married, vulnerable, uncertain, human. "Simon, I can explain." "Then explain." She was quiet for a long time, staring at her hands. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. "I never meant for this to happen. But it did happen." "Yes." "How long?" 6 months. The truth, Amelia. 8 months. All of it. She looked up at me, and I saw something I'd never seen before in her eyes. Not guilt, not shame, but defiance. 2 years, she said. "It's been going on for 2 years. 2 years. While I'd been working 60-hour weeks to pay for the house, the cars, Jamie's school expenses, she'd been building a secret life with another man." "Why?" I asked. Because I was lonely. Because you stopped seeing me years ago. Because Greg makes me feel like I matter. You do matter. You're my wife. I'm your roommate who does laundry and splits the bills. There's a difference. So you decided to have an affair. I decided to find someone who actually wanted to be with me. What about Jamie? What about him? He's your son. Our son. What happens to him when this all comes out? Jamie will be fine. He's resilient. He's 13 years old, Amelia. His world is about to fall apart. His world fell apart a long time ago. He just didn't know it. I stared at her. This woman who'd shared my bed for 17 years, who'd given birth to my child, who'd promised to love and honor me until we were both old and gray. Do you love him? I asked. Jamie? Of course I love Jamie. Greg, do you love Greg? She was quiet for so long I thought she wasn't going to answer. Yes, she said finally. I do. More than you love me? I don't love you anymore, Simon. I'm sorry, but I don't. I haven't for a long time. The words hit me like a physical blow. I'd known it, suspected it, but hearing her say it out loud was different. Then why didn't you just leave? Because leaving is complicated. Because I wasn't ready. Because I wanted to make sure I had somewhere to go. You mean you wanted to make sure Greg was willing to leave his wife for you? That's not... She stopped herself. Yes, that's part of it. And is he willing to leave his wife? We're working on it. What does that mean? It means these things take time. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. You've been planning this for 2 years. Not planning, just seeing where things go. While lying to me every single day. I never lied to you. Everything you've said to me for 2 years has been a lie. That's not true. I love you is a lie. I'm working late is a lie. I'm visiting my sister is a lie. What part of our life together has been true? She didn't answer. What about the money? I asked. What money? The money Greg's been stealing from the company. The money you've been helping him steal. I don't know what you're talking about. Amelia, I have documentation, receipts, expense reports, bank records. I know about the fake invoices and the altered billing statements. She was quiet for a long moment. How? Does it matter? You hired someone. You hired someone to spy on me. I hired someone to find out the truth. You violated my privacy. You violated our marriage. We sat in silence, the weight of 2 years' worth of lies settling between us like a wall. What do you want? She asked finally. I want you to end it. What? End the affair. Stop stealing from your company. Try to save our marriage. She stared at me like I'd suggested we move to Mars. Simon, that's not going to happen. Why not? Because I don't want to save our marriage. I want out. What about Jamie? Jamie will adjust. What about the house, the finances, everything we've built together? We'll figure it out. When? When what? When are you planning to leave? She was quiet again, and I realized she hadn't thought that far ahead. She'd been so focused on the excitement of the affair, the thrill of the secret relationship, that she hadn't considered the practical implications. I don't know, she said finally. Well, let me help you decide, I said, standing up. You have 24 hours. To do what? To tell Greg it's over and commit to working on our marriage, or to pack your bags and leave. You can't give me an ultimatum. I just did. Simon? 24 hours, Amelia. Choose. I left her sitting at the kitchen table and went upstairs to shower. When I came back down, she was gone. That evening, she came home with Greg. They walked into my house together, holding hands like teenagers, and found me waiting in the living room with a beer and a folder full of evidence. Simon, Amelia said, we need to talk. I'm listening. Greg stepped forward, all confidence and expensive cologne. Look, buddy, I know this is awkward, but we're all adults here. Are we? Amelia and I have feelings for each other, real feelings, and we think it's time everyone was honest about the situation. Honest, I repeated. That's an interesting word choice. What's that supposed to mean? I opened the folder and pulled out a photograph. Greg and Amelia entering his apartment building, time-stamped and dated. It means I know you've been lying to everyone for 2 years. Greg's confidence wavered slightly. You had us followed? I had the truth documented. That's illegal. Taking pictures of people in public? No, that's actually completely legal. I pulled out another document, financial records showing Greg's fraudulent expense reports. This, on the other hand, is very illegal. Greg's face went pale. Where did you get that? Does it matter? Amelia stepped forward. Simon, what do you want? I want you both out of my house. This is my house too, she said. Actually, it's not. I pulled out another document, the deed to the house, which was in my name only. I bought this house 3 years before we got married. You have no legal claim to it. You can't just throw me out. Watch me. Greg found his voice. Now hold on. You hold on, I said, standing up. You've been stealing from your company, sleeping with a married woman, and disrespecting my home. The only reason I'm not calling the police right now is because I want you to have time to think about what comes next. What comes next? Amelia asked. What comes next is that you both have a choice. You can end this affair, Greg can return the money he's stolen, and we can all pretend this conversation never happened. Or you can continue what you're doing, and I'll make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of people you really are. You're threatening us, Greg said. I'm offering you a way out. And if we don't take it? I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Then you'll find out what happens when someone who fixes things for a living decides to break them instead. They left without another word, but I knew they'd be back. People like Greg don't give up easily, and Amelia had too much invested in her fantasy to let it go without a fight. But I was ready for whatever came next. For the first time in 2 years, I was the one with all the information, all the leverage, and all the control. It was time to find out what my wife and her lover were really made of. They declared war the next morning. I was having coffee in the kitchen when my phone rang. My supervisor at work, Tony Castellano, sounded uncomfortable. Simon, I need you to come in early today. We've got a situation. What kind of situation? The kind we need to discuss in person. When I arrived at the shop, Tony was waiting with a grim expression and a manila folder. Sit down, he said. What's going on, Tony? I got a call yesterday from Greg Linton. Says he's concerned about your mental state. My stomach dropped. What did he tell you? Says you've been harassing him and your wife, making threats, acting unstable. That's not true. Says you broke into his apartment, stole financial documents, had him followed by some kind of private investigator. Tony says he's worried you might do something violent. I sat back in my chair, understanding dawning. They weren't going to back down. They were going to try to destroy my credibility before I could destroy theirs. Did he file a police report? I asked. Not yet. Says he's hoping you'll get help before it comes to that. And you believe him? Tony was quiet for a moment. I've known you for 8 years, Simon. You're the most reliable guy I've got. But lately, you've been different. Distracted. Angry. My wife is having an affair. I know. Greg told me. He told you? Says she came to him for advice about how to handle the situation. Says you've been accusing her of things, going through her personal belongings, making her afraid to be in her own home. The brilliance of it was stunning. They'd taken every piece of evidence I'd gathered and turned it into proof of my instability. The photos became stalking. The financial records became theft. My confrontation with them became harassment. Tony, I can prove everything I told you. With evidence you obtained illegally? It wasn't illegal. Greg says otherwise. Says you hired someone to break into his apartment, hack into his computer, steal confidential documents. That's not what happened. Then what did happen? I opened my mouth to explain, then realized I couldn't. Not without admitting that Malik had used methods that weren't exactly legal, not without revealing sources and techniques that would make everything inadmissible in court. I can't tell you that, Simon. But I can show you proof that Greg has been embezzling money from his company. With stolen documents. With documents that prove he's a criminal. Documents that you obtained through criminal means. I was trapped. Everything I'd done to gather evidence could be portrayed as harassment, stalking, or worse. Greg and Amelia had outmaneuvered me by attacking first, painting me as the unstable husband who couldn't accept his wife's decision to leave. "What do you want me to do?" I asked. "I want you to take some time off. Get counseling. Deal with your personal problems before they become professional problems." "You're suspending me?" "I'm giving you 2 weeks to get your head straight, with pay, because I like you and I want to see you work through this. But if there are any more complaints, any more incidents, I'll have to let you go." I drove home in a daze, understanding that I'd underestimated my opponents. Greg wasn't just a cheating boss, he was a strategist. And Amelia wasn't just an unfaithful wife. She was a willing participant in a campaign to destroy my reputation. When I got home, there was a police car in my driveway. Officer Patricia Mills was young, professional, and clearly uncomfortable with the situation. "Mr. Carter, I need to speak with you about a complaint we received." "What kind of complaint?" "Harassment, stalking, and making threats against Greg Linton and your wife." "I haven't threatened anyone." "According to Mr. Linton, you confronted him and your wife yesterday evening, showed them photographs taken without their knowledge, and threatened to ruin their careers if they didn't comply with your demands." "I offered them a chance to end their affair." "By threatening them. By giving them a choice." She consulted her notepad. "What you said was, you'll find out what happens when someone who fixes things for a living decides to break them instead." Is that accurate? It was accurate. And it sounded much more threatening when repeated by a police officer. "I was angry," I said. "I understand that, Mr. Carter. But you can't threaten people even when you're angry, especially when you're going through a divorce. We're not getting divorced. According to your wife, she's filed papers." The world tilted sideways. "What?" "She filed for divorce yesterday afternoon. Didn't you know?" I sat down heavily on my front steps. "No, I didn't know." Officer Mills's expression softened slightly. "Look, Mr. Carter, I've seen a lot of these situations. Marriages end, people get hurt, emotions run high. But you can't let your anger make things worse for yourself." "What am I supposed to do?" "Get a lawyer. Work through the legal system. Don't take matters into your own hands. And if my wife and her boyfriend are stealing money from their company, then report it to the appropriate authorities and let them investigate." "With what evidence?" "Whatever evidence you obtained legally." After she left, I sat on my front steps for a long time, watching the neighborhood go about its normal routine. Kids riding bicycles, neighbors walking dogs, the mailman making his rounds. Everything looked the same, but my world had changed completely in the space of 24 hours. Amelia had filed for divorce. She'd painted me as an unstable stalker. She'd gotten me suspended from work, and she'd done it all while I thought I was the one in control. My phone buzzed with a text message. "Amelia, I'm sorry it came to this. I never wanted to hurt you." I stared at the message for a long time before typing back. Me. "Yes, you did." Amelia. "That's not true." Me. "You've been planning this for 2 years. You wanted to hurt me, you wanted to leave me, and you wanted to make sure I couldn't fight back." Amelia. "I wanted to be happy." Me. "At my expense." Amelia. "I'm picking up some things this afternoon. Please don't be there." Me. "It's my house." Amelia. "Simon, please, let's try to be civilized about this." Civilized. She wanted to be civilized after destroying my marriage, my job, and my reputation. Me. "Where's Jamie?" Amelia. "With me." Me. I want to see him. Amelia. Maybe that's not a good idea right now. Me. He's my son. Amelia. You're scaring him. Me. I'm scaring him? Amelia. The police visit, the suspension from work, the angry confrontations. He doesn't understand what's happening. Me. Then explain it to him. Amelia. I'm trying to protect him. Me. From what? Amelia. From you. I threw the phone across the yard and watched it shatter against the fence. Then I went inside, poured myself a drink, and tried to figure out how everything had gone so wrong so quickly. The answer came to me as I sat in my empty house, surrounded by the remnants of 17 years of marriage. I'd been playing defense while they'd been playing offense. I'd been trying to save something that was already broken while they'd been planning my destruction. But they'd made one crucial mistake. They thought I was finished. They thought they'd won. They were wrong. I called Malik from the landline. They got to my boss, I said when he answered. And the police. I heard. Tony called me. What did you tell him? Nothing he didn't already know. That you're a good man going through a hard time. Amelia filed for divorce. I know. She's trying to keep Jamie away from me. That won't stick. You're his father. She's painting me as unstable. Are you? I considered the question. Probably. Good. Unstable can be useful if you channel it right. What do you mean? I mean they've shown their hand. Now we show ours. They've already discredited any evidence we have. They've discredited the evidence we obtained questionably. They haven't discredited the evidence that's sitting in plain sight. What evidence? The evidence they're creating right now by being arrogant and careless. I don't follow. Simon, they think they've won, which means they're going to get sloppy. They're going to make mistakes. And when they do, we're going to be there to document every single one. How? Leave that to me. But first, you need to do something for me. What? You need to become the person they think you are. What does that mean? It means if they want to paint you as unstable, give them unstable. If they want to portray you as unpredictable, become unpredictable. Make them so worried about what you might do next that they start making desperate moves. That sounds dangerous. It is dangerous. But it's also the only way to win. I thought about it for a moment. What did you have in mind? Meet me at the shop tonight, after hours. And Simon? Yeah? Bring your tools. That evening, I met Malik at his security company's warehouse. He had a plan that was either brilliant or completely insane, possibly both. They want to play psychological warfare, he said, spreading out photographs and documents on his desk. Let's give them psychological warfare. The plan was simple in concept. We were going to make Greg and Amelia so paranoid, so worried about what I might do next, that they'd start making mistakes. Big mistakes. Public mistakes. How? I asked. By being everywhere and nowhere. By making them think you're watching them when you're not, and not watching them when you are. By making them question every shadow, every sound, every coincidence. That sounds like actual stalking. It's not stalking if you're not actually following them. It's just strategic visibility. He showed me the first phase of the plan. We were going to let them know I was watching without actually watching. A car parked across from Greg's apartment building, but not my car. A delivery truck that happened to be on their street when they left for work, but not following them. Small things, innocent things, but enough to make them nervous. And then? I asked. Then we wait for them to overreact. What if they don't? They will. People who are used to being in control hate feeling like they're being watched. It makes them do stupid things. What kind of stupid things? Malik smiled. The kind that destroy careers and end relationships. We spent the next 3 hours planning every detail. It was elaborate, comprehensive, and probably illegal in about 15 different ways. It was also the only chance I had to get my life back. "One more thing," Malik said as we finished up. "You need to prepare yourself for the possibility that this doesn't end the way you want it to." "What do you mean?" "I mean, Amelia might choose Greg no matter what happens. Jamie might decide he wants to live with his mother. You might win the war but lose everything that matters to you." "Then why are we doing this?" "Because sometimes the only way to find out what something is worth is to fight for it." I drove home through empty streets, thinking about what Malik had said. Was I fighting for my marriage, or was I fighting for revenge? Was I trying to save my family, or was I trying to destroy the people who'd hurt me? Maybe there wasn't a difference anymore. When I got home, there was a note on the kitchen table. "Simon, I took some clothes and personal items. I'll be in touch about arrangements for Jamie. Please don't try to contact me directly. Amelia." She'd been in my house while I was gone. She'd taken her things and left a note like I was a roommate she was moving out on. But she'd made a mistake. She'd left her wedding ring on the counter beside the note. I picked it up and held it to the light. 17 years of marriage reduced to a small circle of gold on my kitchen counter. I put the ring in my pocket and went upstairs to see what else she'd taken. Her closet was half empty. Her jewelry box was gone. Her personal photos had been removed from the dresser. But she'd left something behind, something she probably didn't even realize was evidence. A receipt from a hotel in Chicago dated 3 weeks ago, the weekend she'd supposedly been visiting her sister in Milwaukee. Greg's name was on the credit card charge. I smiled for the first time in days. They wanted to play games? Fine. But they were about to learn that I was much better at games than they'd imagined. The war was just beginning. The hotel receipt was just the beginning. Over the next week, while Greg and Amelia thought they'd neutralized me, I became a ghost in their lives. Not stalking, not threatening, just present. A familiar truck parked where they could see it, a figure in the distance at the coffee shop where they met, always just visible enough to remind them I existed, never close enough to be accused of harassment. Malik had been right. They started making mistakes almost immediately. The first mistake was Greg's temper. On Wednesday morning, he confronted me in the parking lot of the grocery store where I'd been shopping, legitimately shopping, not following anyone. "This has got to stop," he said, approaching my truck as I loaded groceries. "What has to stop?" "You know what? The surveillance, the intimidation, the games." I looked around the parking lot. "I'm buying milk and bread, Greg. What games? Don't play dumb with me. I'm not playing anything. I'm trying to live my life. Your life doesn't include following me and Amelia around town." "I haven't been following you." "Then explain why I've seen your truck 3 times this week." "Maybe because we live in the same town and shop at the same stores." He stepped closer, close enough that I could smell his expensive cologne mixed with nervous sweat. "Stay away from us, Simon. I'm warning you." "Are you threatening me?" "I'm telling you to back off." "Or what?" "Or I'll make sure you regret it." I pulled out my phone and started recording. "Could you repeat that?" "I want to make sure I get it right when I report this to Officer Mills." Greg's face went red. "You son of a—" "Careful," I said. "You're being recorded." He stormed off, but not before giving me exactly what I needed. Evidence that he was the one doing the threatening. The second mistake was Amelia's overconfidence. That Friday, she brought Jamie to the house to pick up more of her belongings. I wasn't supposed to be there. She'd texted to make sure. But I'd come home early from a job interview and was in the garage when they arrived. I heard them talking in the kitchen. "Why can't I stay here with Dad?" Jamie was asking. "Because your father is going through some problems right now and it's not safe." "What kind of problems?" "He's been acting strangely. Following people, making threats. The police had to talk to him." "Dad wouldn't hurt anyone." "People change, Jamie. Sometimes they change in ways that scare us." I stepped into the kitchen doorway. "Hello, Jamie." My son turned, and his face lit up. "Dad." He ran to me and I hugged him tight, realizing how much I'd missed him in just 1 week. How are you doing, buddy? I'm okay. Mom says you're sick. I looked at Amelia over Jamie's head. Do I look sick to you? You look tired. I am tired, but I'm not sick. Amelia stepped forward. Jamie, go upstairs and get your video games from your room. After he left, she turned to me. You're not supposed to be here. It's my house. Simon, please don't make this harder than it has to be. Harder for who? For Jamie. He's confused enough as it is. He's confused because you're lying to him. I'm protecting him. From what? The truth? From you. I'm his father. You're a man who's been suspended from work for making threats and had the police called on him for harassment. I'm a man whose wife has been lying to him for 2 years. That doesn't give you the right to stalk me. I haven't been stalking you. Then explain why Greg saw your truck outside his apartment building yesterday. I smiled. I wasn't in my truck yesterday. What? Yesterday I was at a job interview across town, from 2 to 4 in the afternoon. I have witnesses. Her confidence wavered slightly. Then whose truck was it? I don't know. Maybe there's more than one red Ford pickup in this city. She studied my face, trying to figure out if I was lying. The beautiful thing was, I wasn't. Malik had borrowed my truck while I was at the interview, but he'd just parked it and walked away. He hadn't followed anyone or done anything illegal. This is exactly what I'm talking about, she said finally. You're playing games. I'm living my life by making us paranoid. If you're paranoid, maybe you should ask yourself why. Jamie came back downstairs with his gaming system. Can I stay for dinner, Mom? Amelia looked at me, then at Jamie. Not tonight, honey. Why not? Because we have plans. What plans? We're having dinner with Greg. Jamie's face fell. I don't like Greg. You don't know Greg. I know enough. Jamie, he's not my dad. No one's trying to replace your dad. Then why can't I stay here? Amelia looked helpless for a moment, caught between her son's questions and her own agenda. Because your father and I are getting divorced, and things are complicated right now. Divorced people can still eat dinner together. Not when one of them is acting unstable. I'm not unstable, I said quietly. You hired someone to spy on me. I hired someone to find out the truth. You broke into Greg's apartment. I never broke into anything. You stole financial documents. I obtained evidence of embezzlement. You threatened us. I gave you a choice. We were arguing in front of our son, and I could see the confusion and fear in his eyes. This was exactly what I'd wanted to avoid, but Amelia had forced the confrontation. Jamie, I said, why don't you go watch TV in the living room for a few minutes? Your mom and I need to finish talking. After he left, Amelia and I stared at each other across the kitchen, where we'd shared thousands of meals, made countless decisions, raised our son together. It doesn't have to be like this, I said. Yes, it does. Why? Because I don't love you anymore, Simon. I love Greg, and I'm not going to apologize for that or pretend it's not true. What about Jamie? Jamie will adjust. What about the lies, the stealing, the 2 years of deception? I did what I had to do. To protect who? To protect myself. From what? From this. From you making me feel guilty for wanting something better. Better than what? Better than a marriage that died years ago, but nobody had the courage to bury it. Her words hit like physical blows, but I kept my voice steady. If the marriage was so terrible, why didn't you just leave? Because leaving is hard, because I wasn't sure what I wanted, because I needed time to figure things out. While lying to me every day. While trying to find a way to be happy. At my expense. Yes, at your expense. I'm sorry about that, but I'm not sorry for choosing myself for once. I looked at this woman I'd shared my life with, this mother of my child, this person I'd trusted completely, and realized I was looking at a stranger. "Get out," I said quietly. "What?" "Take your things and get out of my house." "Simon, now!" She gathered her belongings quickly, called Jamie from the living room, and headed for the door. "This isn't over," she said. "Yes, it is. I mean the legal proceedings, the custody arrangements, the financial settlements. I know what you meant." She paused at the door. "For what it's worth, I never wanted to hurt you." "But you did hurt me. Every day for 2 years you hurt me." "I know. And you'd do it again." She was quiet for a moment. "Yes, I would." After they left, I sat in my empty house and made a decision. I was done being defensive. I was done trying to save something that couldn't be saved. I was done playing by rules that only applied to me. It was time to end this. I called Malik. "It's time," I said when he answered. "You sure?" "I'm sure. No going back after this." "There's already no going back." "What changed your mind?" "She told Jamie I was dangerous. She made our son afraid of me to protect her affair." "That's unforgivable." "Yes, it is." We met that night at his office and finalized our plan. It was comprehensive, devastating, and completely legal. We were going to destroy their careers, their reputations, and their relationship using nothing but the truth and their own arrogance. The beauty of it was that they were going to do most of the work themselves. Phase 1 began Monday morning when Malik's contact at the architectural firm received an anonymous package containing copies of Greg's fraudulent expense reports, hotel receipts, and billing records. Not the ones we'd obtained through questionable means, but public records, credit card statements, and company documents that any employee could have accessed. Phase 2 was a series of carefully orchestrated coincidences. Greg's wife, Denise, received copies of hotel receipts showing her husband's weekend trips with another woman. The receipts came from a concerned friend who'd seen them together and thought she should know. Phase 3 was social media, photos of Greg and Amelia together, taken in public places where anyone could have seen them, posted to neighborhood social networks with captions like, "Saw these two at the restaurant downtown. Isn't he married to someone else?" By Wednesday, the gossip mill was in full swing. By Friday, Greg had been suspended from work, pending an investigation. By the following Monday, Denise had filed for divorce and frozen all their joint assets. But the real masterpiece was still to come. On Tuesday evening, Amelia called me. "Simon, we need to talk." "I'm listening." "Not on the phone. In person." "Where?" "The house. Our house." "It's my house. Please. It's important." She arrived an hour later with Greg, both of them looking haggard and desperate. The confident, arrogant couple from 2 weeks ago had been replaced by two people who were starting to understand that their actions had consequences. "Sit down," I said, gesturing to the living room. They sat on the couch where I'd first seen them together on the hidden camera. The irony wasn't lost on me. "What do you want?" I asked. "We want this to stop," Amelia said. "What to stop?" "The harassment, the investigation at work, the social media posts, the private investigator following us." "I haven't hired a private investigator." "Then explain how Denise got those hotel receipts." "Maybe someone saw you together and thought she should know." "This is a small town, Simon. People talk." "Yes, they do. Especially when they see married people cheating on their spouses." Greg leaned forward. "Look, I know you're angry." "Do you?" "But this has gone too far. I could lose my job." "You should lose your job. You've been stealing from your company. Those expense reports are fraudulent. You billed personal trips as business expenses. You used company resources for your affair. You violated your professional ethics in about 15 different ways. I can explain. To who? Your boss? The state licensing board? Your wife's divorce lawyer?" Greg's face went pale. "What do you want?" "I want you to disappear." "What?" "I want you to end your relationship with my wife, resign from your job, and move to another city. That's insane. That's the deal. What deal? The deal where I don't send copies of your fraudulent expense reports to the district attorney's office. You're blackmailing me. I'm giving you a choice, the same choice I gave you 2 weeks ago. Amelia stood up. Simon, this is crazy. You can't just destroy people's lives because you're angry. Can I? This isn't you. This isn't who you are. You're right. The person I was would have tried to save our marriage. The person I was would have forgiven you and tried to work things out. But that person was an idiot who didn't understand what kind of people he was dealing with. We're not bad people. You're people who lie, cheat, steal, and manipulate others to get what you want. If that's not bad, what is? We fell in love. You fell in lust. And you decided that justified destroying my family. Your family was already destroyed. By you. By neglect. By indifference. By two people who stopped caring about each other years ago. I never stopped caring about you. You never started caring about me. Not really. I was just convenient. She was right, and we both knew it, but that didn't excuse what she'd done. So what happens now? Greg asked. Now you make a choice. End this affair and try to salvage your careers and your reputations, or continue what you're doing and face the consequences. What consequences? I pulled out a folder and set it on the coffee table. Criminal charges for embezzlement, professional sanctions from the state licensing board, civil lawsuits from defrauded clients, divorce proceedings that will cost you everything you own. Greg opened the folder and paged through the documents. His face went from pale to white to green. Where did you get all this? Does it matter? Some of this is confidential. Some of this is evidence of criminal activity. You can't prove I did anything wrong. I don't have to prove it. I just have to present enough evidence to make people ask questions, and once they start asking questions, they'll find the answers. Amelia sat back down, looking defeated. What about Jamie? What about him? If you destroy Greg's career, if you make this public, it affects Jamie too. Jamie is already affected. He's living with a mother who's teaching him that lying and cheating are acceptable as long as you don't get caught. That's not what I'm teaching him. It's what you're showing him. Simon, please, think about what you're doing. I am thinking about it. I'm thinking about 2 years of lies. I'm thinking about my son being told his father is dangerous. I'm thinking about my career being threatened because you and your boyfriend decided to paint me as unstable. We were protecting ourselves. From what? From you. I never threatened you. You threatened to destroy our lives. No, I threatened to tell the truth about your lives. There's a difference. Greg closed the folder and looked at me. What exactly do you want? I want you to resign from your job and move to another city. I want you to end your relationship with Amelia. I want you to return the money you stole from your company. And if I do that, then I don't send this information to the authorities. What about Amelia? What about her? Do you want her to quit too? I looked at my wife, this woman who'd shared my bed for 17 years and lied to me for the last 2. I want her to decide what kind of person she wants to be. What does that mean? It means she can choose to be the kind of person who rebuilds her life honestly, or she can choose to be the kind of person who keeps making the same mistakes with different people. And Jamie? Jamie stays with me. Simon, you made him afraid of his own father to protect your affair. You don't get custody. I'm his mother. You're a woman who chose her boyfriend over her son's well-being. That's not true. Prove it. She was quiet for a long moment. How? End the affair. Move back home. Try to be the mother Jamie deserves. What about us? There is no us. There hasn't been for 2 years. So you want me to give up the person I love to come back to a marriage that's already over? I want you to choose between your son and your boyfriend. That's not fair. Fair would have been you asking for a divorce 2 years ago instead of lying and cheating. Fair would have been you not trying to destroy my reputation when I found out. Fair would have been you not making our son afraid of me. She looked at Greg, then back at me. I need time to think. You have until tomorrow. That's not enough time. It's more time than you gave me when you decided to have an affair. They left without another word, but I knew they'd be back. People like Greg and Amelia always come back when they realize they're trapped. The next evening, Amelia came alone. Greg's leaving, she said. Good. He's resigning from the firm and moving to Denver. What about you? I don't know. What don't you know? I don't know if I can come back here and pretend to be happy. I'm not asking you to pretend to be happy. I'm asking you to be a mother to your son. What about being a wife? That's over. So you want me to live here, raise Jamie, and what? Just exist? I want you to figure out what kind of person you want to be without Greg Linton telling you what to think. He never told me what to think. He told you that I was an idiot who didn't deserve you. He told you that your son would be fine without his father. He told you that lying and stealing were justified as long as you were happy. Those were my decisions. Were they? Or were they his ideas that you convinced yourself were your own? She was quiet for a long time. I don't love you anymore, Simon. I know. I don't think I can learn to love you again. I'm not asking you to. Then what are you asking? I'm asking you to be Jamie's mother. I'm asking you to live in the same house and raise our son together like adults. I'm asking you to put his needs ahead of your wants for the next 5 years until he graduates high school. And then? Then you can do whatever you want. What about you? What about me? What do you get out of this arrangement? I get to watch my son grow up in a stable home with both his parents. That's all? That's everything. She looked around the kitchen where we'd had so many conversations, made so many plans, shared so many meals. I hurt you, she said finally. Yes. I'm sorry. I know. Do you forgive me? I thought about it for a long time. I forgive you for falling out of love with me. I don't forgive you for the lies, the cheating, or the way you tried to destroy my relationship with Jamie. Fair enough. So what's your decision? I'll stay. For Jamie. And Greg? Greg is gone. What did you tell him? I told him I had to choose between him and my son. And I chose my son. It wasn't the ending I'd wanted when this all started. I'd wanted my wife to love me again, my marriage to be restored, my family to be whole and happy. But it was the ending that served justice. Greg had lost his job, his wife, and his assets. Amelia had lost the love of her life and learned that actions have consequences. And I had gained something more valuable than revenge. I had my son back, and I had the truth. Sometimes that's enough. Sometimes that's everything. As I watched Amelia unpack her suitcase in the guest bedroom, not our bedroom, never our bedroom again, I realized that I'd learned something important about myself. I wasn't the man who would forgive anything to keep peace. I wasn't the man who would accept lies to avoid confrontation. I was the man who would fight for what mattered, even when the cost was everything I thought I wanted. And for the first time in 2 years, that felt like enough. The war was over. I had won. But victory, I discovered, tastes different than you imagine it will. It tastes like justice served cold, like truth finally spoken, like consequences finally delivered. It doesn't taste like happiness. But sometimes, justice is more important than happiness. Sometimes, it's the only thing that matters.